So we have finally now managed to fill in our spreadsheets, and we've done all of the initial calculations that we needed to do to allow us to start inputting our data directly into the DEAP software. So we'll open up the DEAP software and just open up there the start page, and we can start filling in the information that we need. And what we'll do then is that we'll go down through each tab and fill it in as we go along until we get to the end, and then we end up with our final BER result. Okay, so we're on the start page, and basically we need to fill in all of these blank spaces. So the first thing it asks for is the MPRN number, and that's the number that we get from the ESB bill from the homeowner or from the ESB from the information that we got off the meter where we took the photograph back at the house. So when we have the MPRN, we pop that in there. We'll stick in the date of the assessment. Assuming there is no other BER cert for this property, the answer to that one there will be no. If there is a BER cert for this property already, you'll stick in the BER number in there. And then the important bit for this page is this one here where it says year of construction. If it's an existing building, the year of construction is what will be used to determine the U values for the various building elements later on. So we need to make sure that we get the year of construction correct. So we go on to the property and assessor details. In this page you will just fill in the address of the property that is being assessed. You will, if you like, put your own reference in there and fill in other information if you have it. You will then also put in the name and the address of the client, the person who has asked you to do this BER assessment. And then at the bottom you fill in your own details, your name and your BER assessor number. So once you have completed these first two pages, we are now going to go into the Dimensions tab, and this is where you start putting the information in that the software DEAP will use to calculate the final rating. So the ground floor area, this is an area we have worked out using our spreadsheet, so we know what the area is, so we can pop that information in there directly. The same goes with the average room height. We've measured that on site, so we can pop that in. And we do that for the ground floor and the first floor, and if we have a second or other floors, we fill that information in as we go down. In our case, we only had a ground floor and a first floor, so it's only these two boxes we need to fill in with their average room heights. The living area, we discussed the living area and decided which room we would treat as being the living area, and we know what that area is, so we pop that in there. And then the number of stories is the last thing we need to fill in. Number of stories in our case is 2, so we just pop a 2 in there, and then that's that page completed, and we can carry on down onto the ventilation tab. On the ventilation tab, the first question it asks us is how many chimneys we have in the property. In our property we have 1 chimney, so we pop a 1 in there. Number of open flues, in our case we do not have any open flues, so we can leave that blank. And then number of intermittent fans and passive vents. That's the number of vents that we counted in all of the rooms in the property, including the fans in the ensuite and in the kitchen. If there are any combustion room heaters, in our case we don't have any. A flueless combustion room heater, that's basically the type of room heater you have, where like a Calor-Cozen gas heater with a big bottle of gas in the back. It doesn't have a flue, and in those, if you have any of those type of heaters, then you need to record them here, but in our case we don't have any, so we'll just leave that out blank. Is there a draft lobby on the main entrance? In our case, no. There isn't any porch of any sort, so there can't be a draft lobby, so we leave that at 0. And then we're asked the question, have we got an air permeability test? Have we got the results of any air permeability test carried out? In our case, the answer is no, so we just leave that as no. And then our structure type, we will click on the drop down menu. Our structure is a masonry building, so we'll click on masonry, we fill that in. Is there a suspended wooden ground floor? In our case we know that it is a concrete ground floor, so the answer to that is no, so we leave that in as no. We get then asked the percentage of windows and doors draft stripped. In our case, we know that all of our windows and doors are draft stripped, so we can stick in 100% in there, and that will give us, pop that in, and that's our 100%. And that's essentially the ventilation tab finished. We have now into our building elements tab, and here this is where we input all of the information that we calculated using our spreadsheet with regard to areas for floors, roofs, walls and so on. So we put in the floor area, our roof area, all of the walls minus the area of the windows, any doors we have, we put the areas in there. We calculate all of our window areas and we input it into here. The heat loss results at the end is just a set of results. We don't have any input into that. All those boxes will be filled in for us. So once we've done that, we can then head straight into the water heating tab. And in here, it just asks us a number of questions, drop down lists. We have to answer those questions. Once we've done that, we can come down and look at storage losses. And this is the capacity of our cylinder in the hot press upstairs that we measured. And now we know we can calculate the capacity of the cylinder, and we input that in there. So once we've input all that information, we can then carry on into lighting and internal gains. In this case here, it's only one box we need to fill in, and that's the percentage of low energy lights compared to the total number of lights, so we can input that. So the next tab then is the net space heat demand tab, and in here it's just a single entry, and it's the thermal mass category of the dwelling, and it's a drop down list, and we choose from that the appropriate one. Finished with that, we're then into the distribution system losses and gains. This is where we're dealing with the actual heating system itself, the controls that the heating system has, and the type of heating system that it is. So we can fill in all that information, and then onto our energy requirements, and this is where we put in the efficiencies of our heating system for the main space heating system and our secondary heating system. If you remember, we had an open fire in a grate that we're going to use as our secondary space heating system, and this is where we fill in the information for that. We can then go on to our water heating, and it usually is the same as our main space heating, so that will be copied over and all the information will pop in there. The pumps, fans and electric key pot facility, we don't need to bother with that because all that information goes in for us automatically. So the last tab then we have to fill in is the fuel data tab, and this is fill in these four boxes here, just from drop down menus. Once we have them filled in, that is then the last input we have to do with our BER assessment, and our final result will be shown down here in the corner.